sometimes movies are good. Here are several of them. For those folks who say like, oh, critics hate everything, you guys are mean, nothing pleases you. A lot of movies were really, really great in 2024. And so we love to share them with you. You've probably seen a lot of these reviews over the course of the year, but some of these films we have not had a chance to review yet. So we have some surprises in store for each other and also for you. So come subscribe, because this is like the prime time to be here with us as we're talking about the best and the worst movies of the year and also the award season contenders. So come and hang out. Alonso, how do you want to do this? Because we rank ours differently, you and I.
Right. Yeah, I do rank mine, and you go alphabetical. So I guess we just work up from the bottom in both cases. I don't know, or if you want to go in alphabetical order, and I'll go in reverse numerical order or something.
Okay, great. So do your number 10 for you.
Sure. And just by the way, as you say, like we do, when I sat down to sort of pull movies that I would even think about putting into this top 10, I pulled a good 30 to 40 titles. So yeah, there was a lot this year that was terrific and that I enjoyed. So yeah, don't come at me with your film critics hate everything, because why would we do this for a living if we did? Yes. Anyway, number 10 is The Room Next Door from Pedro Almodovar. I think that critics are tough on him when he's not like given the razzle dazzle, like when he wants to be subtle. Like I remember the year of Volver, which I think is now sort of acknowledged as being, one of his great films. And one of our colleagues was like, I mean, it's no All About My Mother, and so I think there's been a somewhat subdued reaction to this film so far, but I think that time will tell that this is, among his many great films, even though it is him working in English for the first time and doing things differently. There is a lot there that is pure Almodovar, and the two lead performances from Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton are both incredible. Just like powerful and insightful. The film has a lot to say about life and death and issues like that and friendships. And, I just found it really moving and haunting. And it's one I know that I'm going to be going back to again and again.
Yeah, it's a subtle film from him.
Yeah.
It's a more understated film from him, but it's still rich with atmosphere and tension. And you're right, both of those women are excellent in it. So a great choice. Okay, so I'm doing the alphabet because I feel like, how do you rank these things? Once you get to like 5, 6, 7, they're all great. So I like the alphabet. And so my first choice for one of the best films of the year is Anora.
Nice.
I am so psyched about this movie this weekend because Anora is our Best Picture winner. I get to give Mikey Madison her lead performance award. I'm psyched about that. My fellow Valley girl, Mikey Madison. It's tonally so masterful. And Sean Baker so often pulls off a really complicated mix of tones, but that is so heightened here and so precise here. Like it's broad, but also like understated and precise at once. And like the hilarity within the danger and the redemption within the heartache, like everything all happens at once. And at the center of it is this incredible performance from Mikey Madison, rich sense of place in Brighton Beach in Brooklyn. So yeah, it's a rollicking, thrilling film.
Excellent. Agreed. My number 9 is a tie, so I guess technically I'm doing a top 11, whatever, kill me. And that would be The People's Joker and I Saw the TV Glow, which are very different films on an aesthetic level, but I think both really touch upon a notion of when queer people are silenced by society, when our stories are not, shared and passed down, we have to find whatever clues we can in pop culture. And I think both of these movies in a really fascinating way take pop culture as a way to express oneself, to find clues about oneself. In the case of The People's Joker, it's comic books and comic book movie adaptations. In I Saw the TV Glow, it's sort of 90s, kind of horror television. But I think that they speak to identity, to queer identity, in a way that's very specific to this generation. And I think, it taps into a lot of how queerness works in terms of finding, our voices within things that were not aimed at us and that are not about us, see Wizard of Oz, but I think this is doing so in a very kind of contemporary way. And I found both of these films really haunting and really just had so much to say about how queer people live their lives and come to understand themselves and figure out how to talk about themselves.
The fact that both these films exist is a miracle,
Yeah.
especially People's Joker, given that Vera Drew went up against Warner Brothers to make the Batman movie, you know. And I saw the TV Glow is so moody, so dreamlike, and like so hard to describe. But I think when people give it a chance and get enraptured in it, it's very transporting. And so they're both beautiful and haunting and melancholy and totally singular and totally personal.
Yeah.
The Brutalist. Woo! Comes after Anora. It is a 3.5 hour long epic that does not feel like a 3.5 hour long epic, but it does feel epic. Like when the intermission comes halfway through, it's like, oh, we're here already. It's time. Just exquisitely well made. Like it feels like a piece of Brutalist architecture in that it is solid and imposing and grand. And that is in the cinematography, and that is in the score, and that is in all the performances, namely Adrian Brody, who just won this past weekend at the Golden Globes. It's an incredible piece of filmmaking, so ambitious, such a huge swing, and Brady Corbet pulls it off.
Yeah, it's a movie that is about, you know, the creative process, that is about the horrors of the 20th century, that it's wrapping its arms around so many different ideas. And it is the kind of movie that we complain that we don't get anymore. You know, the sort of mid-budgeted movie that is aimed at older viewers and that deals with adult, you know, lives and issues, and isn't, you know, a big splashy epic. And I think it is an epic of ideas, but at the same time, you're right. It is very sort of, you know, subdued about, you know, how it's telling the story and the people that it's following. I mean, yeah, that intermission comes. Felicity Jones hasn't even shown up yet. You know, and she's great in this, and I giving, I think, one of her best screen performances to date. Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. We'll be, as my list gets on later, I'll be overlapping with you a few times, so that's certainly one of them. At number 8 for me is Blitz, Steve McQueen's look at life in London and its surroundings during World War II. And it's a movie that's not only about a specific time and place, but it's also kind of a movie that's about the movies about that specific time and place. It feels very much like a response to the sort of official British propaganda cinema of that moment. You know, the idea of like, oh yes, you know, keep calm and carry on. We're all in this together. And it's like, well, are we? Because, you know, what if you're not white? What about then? You know, so yeah, I think Elliot Heffernan, the kid in this, gives a great performance, as does Saoirse Ronan. And yeah, so I just found this movie so powerful. It's so beautifully designed. I mean, like there is a glossy nightclub sequence followed by that same nightclub after a Nazi bombing that is bone chilling. And I think that it is Steve McQueen in his sort of like historically harsh, you know, mode, but also in his kind of compassionate and sensualist mode, you know, that we saw more of in the Small Axe movies. So yeah, I just thought this was extraordinary.
I love Blitz too, and it just missed the cut for me when I had to pare it down to 10. It's so beautifully made, and I'm really surprised that a lot of our fellow critics didn't love it. It's gotten kind of tepid reviews.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this thing is, we saw it together, and we're both like, this is amazing. Like, this is so well made. It's harrowing and intense in that way that Steve McQueen films tend to be, but also there's a humanistic quality to it that gives it a warmth that's very necessary as a contrast. Yeah, everyone's great in it, like costume design, cinematography, just a well-made film. So give it a chance if you have not seen Blitz. My next one is Challengers. Challengers is just fucking fun as hell and sexy, and the rare movie that I went back and rewatched for fun. Like, we don't have time. We don't have time. And it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. But after we picked that score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross at our LA Film Critics voting for best music, like the next day I went back and I rewatched Challengers because I wanted to experience that music in context. And I love the way it's edited. I love the use of music in it. All 3 stars, and Dea and Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist, are all excellent and have incredible chemistry among each other in various permutations. And it's just fun. Like, it's very playful with form and with time in ways that are exciting and illuminating. So you want just a flat out sexy, fun movie. You know, Luca Guadagnino's got 2 films out this year.
Yeah.
This is the more accessible of the 2.
And that was a tough choice. Like, they were both right up there for me. But yeah, I think Challengers kind of edged out because it is just so exhilarating. And I went back and saw it again in IMAX, which is usually like, I don't want to see movies once in IMAX, let alone a second go around. But it is so overwhelming visually, the way that you know, the way that it's shot, those performances, that Guadagnino sense of, you know, again, talking about sensualists, you know,
Totally.
of not just what you're seeing and hearing, but what are you smelling, what are you feeling, you know. Yeah, no, it's an extraordinary movie, and probably I think the only soundtrack I bought this year too.
Ah, fun. What's your next one?
My number 7 is The Brutalist.
Okay. We did it. All right. Anything you want to add in The Brutalist?
No.
Okay, let's move on. My next one is Dune Part 2. Let's just stick with Zendaya this year, the year of Zendaya. I am not super into this kind of sci-fi ordinarily, but with the first one and with this one, I was just so blown away by the ambition of the scope of it all, and like the textures and the use of lighting, and it was just constantly dazzling me over and over again from a production perspective. And then like Austin Butler comes in and shakes up the whole thing and is terrifying. Timothée Chalamet is great in this, in that you see his evolution into becoming the thing that he insisted he didn't want to be, as Muad'Dib, or whatever you want to call him. Usul.
The Kwisatz Haderach.
I know you love saying that, so I wanted to give you a chance to do that. So it's again like The Brutalist, like epic in scope, and then it leaves you on a cliffhanger. So looking forward to Dune 3.
Yeah, no, that was a close one for me. It didn't make my top 10, but it is an epic of ideas, which is always exciting because it's kind of a chosen one narrative that questions the idea of the chosen one narrative.
Yeah,
you know, and questions a lot about religion and society and government and a lot of things like that, while at the same time being this sort of sprawling visual, you know, treat, and these just kind of granular, intense moments like Austin Butler fighting in the arena, you know, or the whole thing with like the underground caverns and the blue liquid ladies and stuff, you know. Yeah, all of it. I was down for it.
Yes, and we've been doing Dune Prophecy on our Patreon. So in case you want more Dune, we got more Dune for you. Patreon.com/BeFastAllDay.
For sure. My number 6 was Anora, which, yes, I agree. Like the way that he's able to jump around in from terrifying to hilarious to moving, the way that these characters exist on multiple levels in terms of what they're showing the world versus who they are. Yeah, it is a masterpiece.
Cool. Flow is my next one.
Okay.
It's our LA Film Critics pick for Best Animated Film, and I'm so glad it is. It's also Latvia's entry in the international category. It's shortlisted for the international Oscar.
And it won the Globes.
Yes. Wordless animated film about, it mainly follows this cat, but then like the cat hangs out with a dog and a bird and like different animals along the way on this like Odyssean journey. And there's been some kind of like climate disaster and everything is flooded and they've got to figure out how to survive. And they anthropomorphize these animals like just enough, like it's not cutesy at all. It is deeply moving and really stressful at times, to the extent where I'm like screaming at the screen, like, "Oh no, kitty, look out, be careful!" And like, of course, the cat can't hear me and does not speak people. But I thought it was beautiful, and in a world where like Robot Dreams also did this so well as far as being able to express emotion and story and in a way that we can see it, and it's not like hitting us over the head with stuff. I thought was quite impressive.
Yeah, I'm not as in love with this movie as you are, and a lot of other folks, but I respect it. I think it does a lot really well, and it does, you know, for something that is at its core kind of a bummer, you know, just because like it's the post-apocalypse and only the pets are left, you know, but I think that it is sweeping, and I had a few issues with some of the animation at times. I thought it was a little like rudimentary 3D kind of CG, but for the most part gorgeous, and for the most part, sweeping.
Cool. What's next?
My number 5 is Close Your Eyes. I don't know if
I've not seen.
I hope you get a chance to catch up with it. It's from Spanish director Victor Erice, who made one of the great Spanish films of the Franco era in the early 70s, a movie called Spirit of the Beehive. About a young girl who becomes obsessed with the movie Frankenstein. That young girl was played by Anna Torrent, and she turns up again in Close Your Eyes as a middle-aged woman. It is a film about an older director who starts investigating a film that was never finished and the people involved with that film and what happened to them exactly. And it is just this really beautiful and moving meditation about death and aging and the persistence of memory and the durability of art. It's a haunting, gorgeous movie, and that it's the first narrative feature that Eddie has made in decades. But this is a guy who's at the peak of his form.
Cool. I have my next one as The Girl with the Needle. Have you seen that?
Which I have not seen.
Okay, this is my foreign language film that you have not seen. Totally harrowing, absolutely beautiful, about this young woman who is single and becomes pregnant at the end of World War I and gets taken in by a woman who is, there to help all of the young women who need help when, they're in the same situation. And it's how that relationship unfolds and how the revelation of what's really happening unfolds. It is devastating and beautiful. It's shot like German expressionism, and so there's like a rich texture to the black and white. And I just thought it was so tense and unfortunately really relevant still today, as far as like women's reproductive rights and who's there to look out for you when you need help. And so it is a movie that takes place over a century ago in a different continent, but still makes sense today.
Gotcha. All right. I need to check that one out for sure. My number 4 is a movie we reviewed here, Christmas Eve in Miller's Point.
Good.
And yes, I know I'm the boy who cried Christmas, but I have almost, if maybe never put a Christmas movie in my top 10. I don't even think I put The Holdovers in last year. But this movie, I think, is really something special and something gorgeous. And I don't think it really found an audience, because I think that art house audiences were put off by a film with Christmas in the title, and people who want to go see a movie with Christmas in the title didn't get what they were expecting out of this movie, because it's not plot driven at all. It is about a family that gathers in this house in Long Island for Christmas. And it's, you can tell it's the house they grew up in. There are certain bedrooms that still have the old posters on the wall. And there's a sense that like, this is a thing we do every year. And we have these rituals that we do every year because we just do them. We all go for a long walk with a thermos of booze. We all go stand out and wait for the fire truck to come by with Santa on the back, but then also other things happen, like the teenagers sneak off and get up to their own thing. There's just all these different little kind of side things that are happening, but it's a movie about those moments that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. And throughout the film, you see different characters experiencing different things that you just know is going to get locked into their collective Christmas memory, their collective life memory, the memory of their family, of spending time together. And I found it extraordinarily moving. And that probably the other film that I made it a point to see again, because I watched it on a screener and wept at the end of it.
Aww.
And again, it wasn't even like a thing happened, like, oh, grandma dies. Like, just the cumulative effect of that movie just like exploded out of me. And then I went and saw it again in a theater, and I'm so glad I did. But even if you're going to like rent it at home streaming, make it a single screen event, please. Turn your phone off and just kind of go with this movie and let it take you where it's going to take you. It's so beautiful.
It's so evocative of a mood. It's like a sustained mood. And totally. Go luxuriate in the wood paneling and the tchotchkes and like the warm candlelight. So yeah, it feels like a movie where like nothing happens, but then also everything happens totally at once. It's very, very lovely. My next one is Kneecap.
Okay.
This is what we talked about here. Yeah. The Northern Irish hip-hop trio Kneecap plays themselves in Kneecap. Yes. They've only been around for like 7 years, but they are playing themselves in their own music biopic, which is
Origin
ballsy.
story.
Yeah, which is ballsy as hell. This is a year of the really inventive music biopic between this and Piece by Piece, and then Better Man, which we'll talk about later this week. Just playing with the structure and the tropes, and it's so alive and so funny and so profane and raunchy, but there's like a kinetic energy about it and them. And then Michael Fassbender comes in and kind of grounds it with actual acting. But I just thought it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. I'd never heard of this band, and they're just super fun. And it's one of the more fun times I've had at the movies this year.
All right.
You don't agree?
It was fine. I liked it. I got no beef with that movie. It didn't blow me away, but it's entertaining, and it does the things you say that it does.
Okay.
So I will say that for sure. My number 3 is Challengers. Yep. Loved it.
Cool. My next one is My Old Ass.
Okay.
Which I included instead of Blitz. That was like my Sophie's choice there. Again, it does a thing that we know, right? It is very much a throwback to 80s, 90s kind of. It's not really a body swap movie. It's not really a time travel movie, but it's got like elements of both of those. And it's got this high concept premise of this young woman played by Maisie Stella has an acid trip and meets her older self played by Aubrey Plaza. Yeah. And it's how that relationship unfolds over the course of the movie and how it might provide her with some guidance at a point of flux. It's her last summer before she goes off to college. And Maisie Stella is a freaking star. Yeah. She is adorable, so funny, so likable, incredible comic timing. She and Aubrey Plaza have incredible chemistry together. And so you just go with this. Like, they're so good together, you just go with it. You don't question it at all. So I thought it did what it did really, really well and reinventing a thing that we already know pretty well.
For sure. And Megan Park, Hallmark actress.
There you go. As the writer-director, right?
Yes.
Cool.
It's her second film. We liked her first one quite a bit as well. So, yeah.
What was her first film?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. The one about it's.
I'm going to look now.
It's about the girl who she's like the survivor of a school shooting.
Oh, right.
It premiered on Max.
And Jenna Ortega is in it, and it's called The Fallout.
The Fallout, yes. That
was very good as well.
She's terrific. My number 2 is Baby Girl.
Okay.
So yeah, Helena Rain, who directed Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It stars Nicole Kidman as a powerful CEO and wife and mom who has unfulfilled sexual urges, and turns out the person who's going to maybe help her figure out what those are is the new intern at her company, played by Harris Dickinson. This is very much a female gaze film about sexuality, and I've seen in some quarters people complain that it doesn't work as a sexual thriller or an erotic thriller. And I would argue that it is not an erotic thriller. If anything, it's a kink coming out movie. But I think it is
a workplace satire.
Yeah, exactly. but I think it's a movie that takes a woman's sexuality very seriously, and the idea of a woman's sort of untraditional sexuality, and her, not only her right, but kind of her duty to pursue that and to unlock the secrets of her own pleasure. Kidman's performance is one for the ages here, and I just thought the movie in general was brilliantly put together.
So stylish. They have incredible chemistry with each other. We got to mention Antonio Banderas.
Yes.
Our friend Latoya Morgan emailed me to say, I think you guys gave Antonio Banderas short shrift. Like, you're right. We did. We didn't mention him quite enough. He's very, very good in this too. You are right, Latoya. Yeah, I like this very, very much too. My next one is one that I'm not sure you've seen, and it's Strange Darling.
I did not.
Stylish as hell, plays with time in ways that are evocative of Pulp Fiction in the way it jumps around and you're sort of disoriented at first and then more things make sense. It's all sort of jumbled in order. Both lead performances keep you guessing the whole time, but it is like richly lurid in style. And that is because of cinematographer Giovanni Ribisi.
Right. I've heard about this.
It is violent and it is funny and it is about relationships and the ways that we need to protect ourselves. I will say that. I just thought it was stylish as hell, like a thrilling piece of filmmaking. And I know it's a little controversial, a little divisive, but I thought it was really well done.
Cool. There's so many genre films from last year, like horror stuff I did not get around to last year. I didn't see that. I didn't see Long Legs. I did see In a Violent Nature, which I thought was really cool, which is, as one person described, as like if Terrence Malick made a slasher movie. My number one is a movie that you did not like nearly as much as I did. It's Hundreds of Beavers.
Number one, I knew it'd be on your list someplace.
Yeah.
I did not know it'd be number one. Okay.
It is the movie I think I've thought about the most this year and was just the biggest surprise and delight. And the movie I think that felt like it was having the most fun digging into the possibilities of cinema and how movies work and what the tools are of editing, of cinematography, of music, of whatever. It is a silent comedy about a man whose apple orchard is destroyed by beavers, and he sets out for revenge. And it is a wild Rube Goldberg machine of slapstick setup and payoff, and setup and long delayed payoff. But you get the payoff eventually. It is going into it, I thought, okay, this is going to be funny for 20 minutes and then I will be sick of it. And for its entire running time, I was captivated and howling with laughter. It's a movie I very much want to see with an audience because I'm sure that makes all the difference in the world. But even just watching it at home on a screener, I was blown away by this movie. It is currently streaming on Canopy and Hoopla and Amazon Prime and Tubi and a bunch of places. It is quite likely that you missed it during its sort of city by city theatrical run. It is just now coming out on Blu-ray as well. So yeah, if you missed it, check out Hundreds of Beavers.
I liked it a lot. I don't dislike it. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was a total blast, and it's so inventive and so unlike anything I've ever seen before, and not unlike The People's Joker. Like, it's a miracle that it exists. Like, it shouldn't make sense. Like, on paper, it's so silly. Like, who's going to buy into this? But there is so much like chutzpah and enthusiasm that went into it, into every little detail. So it's a lot of fun. It ran out of steam for me eventually, but I loved it for a while. And so I'm with you in wanting people to see it because it is totally unusual.
Cool.
And then my last one is one that I thought you would have on your list, and that is The Substance.
That was a contender for sure. Okay. Talk about it.
Gonzo, but like so precise and yet so wild in its ambitions. And I love from the very first frame, the very first shot, that overhead shot of the egg, it grabbed me. And I love the use of color, the way it's shot, the kind of like Kubrickian isolation that exists here, the interplay between Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, although they're never really in the same place at the same time because that would break the laws of The Substance. Like, you got to respect the laws of The Substance. It's just an incredible performance from Demi Moore, physically, emotionally. It's funny, it's sad, it's surprising. It's just a gorgeous film in ways that are like candy colored, but also nightmarish. That last act is insane. I just had a blast watching it.
Yeah, and on top of it, it's a very pointed commentary about Hollywood and how the show business industry treats women, particularly when they have the gall to age. And so, this is a movie that is overflowing with ideas and overflowing in general. But yeah, no, I liked it very much and was definitely, it for sure would be in my top 20.
Glad to see Demi win at the Golden Globes. Yes. That was an incredible speech that she gave, and it was very heartfelt and very poignant and well-timed and all that. So I think that she will definitely get an Oscar nomination. At least she should. So those are our top 10 lists. What would you put on yours? We will link down below in the description to, if we have reviewed these films, we'll put links to all of them down below so you can go check out our full discussions. And thanks for being here all year.
You can read Christy's full list at rogerebert.com, and you can read mine at thefilmverdict.com. And happy 2025. Let's see what this year's got to offer.